And we're going to start with a call from down under. This is a frequent caller. And this is Adrian, who is calling from Melbourne. What is it? Is it a 251K? Is that what it is?
5.5, 1200.
5.5. Oh, they do the 5.5. Okay. 5.5.
Sorry, it is straddle.
It is straddle.
5.5.
All right. So it's 5.5 plus 10's $1,200 buy-in, which is the standard game. It's a little bit deeper. And how deep are you? It's a daytime game. How deep are you in this hand?
The effective is 15-15.
15-15. And if I remember this correctly, this is actually a good lesson in combinatorics and counting combinations of hands, if I remember this one correctly.
One thing I will comment on is I just said the effective is 15-15. I actually thought my villain only had about 1,300 in the hand, and that becomes more important later in the hand.
Okay.
Later on, it becomes apparent he's got a bunch more chips than I thought he had.
Okay. All right. We'll start us off here.
Yep, I'm in the +1. I've got the Queen of Spades, Queen of Diamonds, and I open to 35.
So here on +1, Queen of Spades, Queen of Diamonds to 35, which is probably the standard open, I would assume.
That's my standard, yeah.
Okay.
So, yep, and it folds all the way around to the straddle. Who calls?
So the straddle calls heads up. So obviously that can be wide, right? I mean, he's calling, closing the action. He's getting a price. It shouldn't be insanely wide, but 45, 50, 55, it's like 50 or 55, 25 for him to call. You'll see people call pretty wide here in this spot. And I think a big mistake for the straddle here is actually, especially with an early position open, is calling with like offsuit weak aces, like ace-7, ace-3 off, things like that. I think that's a huge, huge mistake, but you'll commonly see it.
And then the flop comes Queen of Clubs, 10 of Diamonds, 8 of Spades.
Queen of Clubs, 10 of Diamonds, 8 of Spades?
That is correct.
Well, that's nice. I wonder if in real life it came off. Like, it's always nice to see top set, like right in the window.
It was the door card.
Right. So top set here for Adrian on Queen 10-8. No flush draw board, but multiple, interior straight draws. King Jack's a straight draw. Jack 9's obviously. There's one combo of straight that's already out there. And, there's multiple, straight draws. I mean, I don't know what. So I assume he's going to check to you, right?
Yes, he does.
Okay, so straddle checks. And what did you decide to do?
I kind of play the default of half pot on the flop. So I went $40.
So my gut here on this one, the way that I would play, whether it's an exploit or not, is that these are one of these ones where they're either going to, especially if it's heads up. I think it's a little bit different when it's multi-way in terms of sizing. I mean, we talk about multi-way theory. Because if it's multi-way, like say if it's three ways and you bet close to full pot, if say the big blind in the straddle had called, which didn't happen, right? But let's just say that happened. If you bet full pot, the big blind, like the guy in the middle, like he really shouldn't be calling with hands like 9-10 or like 8-9, 7-8 with a guy behind him because it's multi-way, he's got a guy behind him. But here it's heads up. So I look at this one as like, this guy's either he's going to have any piece of the board, which he's going to call to 40 or he's going to call to 70. I can't think of a hand where he's not going to call a larger bet that he's going to call to 40, or he's just going to fold out. Like if he has like a pocket sixes, that's going to be a fold no matter what the size is. And I think if he connects with the board, usually a connection is going to be pair plus straight draw, but it could be like ace 8, whatever, king 10, something like that. He's going to call. So I would tend to just go larger here. Now, I know you said that you thought you were only 1,300, but you still need to build. So even with it being rainbow, I think I probably would have just gone 60 to 75 full pot. I mean, that's just my take.
Yeah, I didn't actually think about that at all. My queries about this hand are further on. But you're right. Aside from random bad eights, like, 8-5 and stuff like that, everything else is calling. Because let's be honest, at 5-5-10, $60 is still not a big bet.
Yeah, I mean, I get
the absolute size is nothing.
Right. I mean, I guess maybe like if you start to go close to full pot, maybe some of the worst eights are supposed to fold out. And that's a good like 8-6, 8-5, maybe that call to 40, but that's a very, very small portion of the range. That's why I would just go larger. But okay, so you go 40 and he calls?
No, he check raises.
Oh, to what?
110.
Straddle check raises to 110. So here bets 40. Straddle check raises to 110. Now, I don't know how wide this guy is. And what I mean by that is like, is the type of guy that might like defend to your heads up with any two. You were not even just any two, but just kind of wider than he's supposed to, because you start to think about, well, I wouldn't probably call with 10-8 off here. I probably wouldn't call with Queen 8 off. But some guys just love to defend their straddle. This is going to come into play. I think the more combinations of hands that he calls with that he shouldn't probably fits into probably is slightly better for you. The one hand that you lose to right now, obviously, is Jack 9. Now, some guys won't call with Jack 9 off in this spot. Obviously, there's 16 combos of any hand, right? Of any unpaired hand. So of Jack 9, you've got 16 combos. You got 12 unsuited combos. You got 4 suited. Obviously, he's going to call with the suited ones, I think. So it really comes down to how wide he is. And then when you look at combinations wise, a hand like 10-8, how do you figure out how many 10-8 combos there are left of all of them? Well, there's 3 10s left and there's 3 8s left. So there's 9 total combos of 10-8 that are left. How many 10-8 suiteds are left? There's only 2, because there's a diamond and a spade out there. And then if you look at it and go further and you say, how many combos of, like, say, Queen 10 are there? Well, Adrian's got 2 queens in his hand. There's 1 queen out there. So there's 1 queen left in the deck and 3 10s. So there's 3 combos. This is going to come into play, I know, on this particular hand. So I would start thinking about how wide this guy is in the straddle. And it's always interesting when you flop such a strong hand and you get check raised, because it's kind of hard to balance a spot where, well, what would I bet 3-bet here? Like if I'm not 3-bet, if not like bet 3-betting like aces or kings here, am I supposed to just call with everything else because it looks so strong if I bet 3-bet?
I do just call, and 2 things on that was I would not be bet 3-betting this with aces or kings. This is like, as I said, I've done work with Nate before. We talk about red alert boards. This is a red alert board with 3 cards between Queen and 8. And the second thing was I, with the small size of the check raise, I also wondered whether I gave him like 10-9, 8-9, Queen Jack type hands as well, like the pair and a gut shot type hands, is almost finding out where he's at.
Well,
check raise.
I mean, this is a kind of like an experience-based read with what I'll give you, is that I don't necessarily agree with that. I can. The interesting thing is, I know you've been with us for a long time, is usually I consider these small check raises sort of protectionist types of top pair types of raises. The issue here is that there isn't that much, because you've got 2 of the queens in your hand. Pretty rare for me to see a guy like make a raise like this with like 10-9, Jack 10. A lot of times those hands just call because they're like, well, I'm ahead of them anyways. It's like pair plus draw. So, and I don't know how much you can necessarily interpret if 110 is really all that small. It is definitely difficult to balance a bet 3-bet here. Sometimes it just doesn't matter though, because sometimes a guy will only raise with 2 pair or better and they're just never going to fold. So it doesn't really make that much of a difference. It's good for you that you have position though. So it's a little bit easier for you to like sort of manipulate, the pot size, as opposed to like, say, if you were out of position, you bet and got raised, and then you just called, and then the guy like checked behind, on the turn. So maybe I think actually, if you were to say what hands would you 3-bet here that aren't, say, like Jack 9, I would actually tend to probably want to 3-bet more of the middle and the bottom set, giving my opponent more of the ability to have, say, like, a top pair and then like a top 2 pair here. With having like top set, I'm just saying you could sometimes 3-bet it, but I would probably do more bet 3-betting with 10s or 8s. Here you make the call. So now you guys put in 220 on the flop. So it looks like the pot is like, I'm going to put 295 because of the rake, 295 to 300, right?
Yeah, well, after our rake's $25 at this point in time.
So it's actually like 275 then? It's funny.
Yeah, 275. Okay. Yeah, we've hit the rake cap.
Okay. All right. And then you can obviously react to what the guy does. You can react to what he does on the turn. If you're just doing, counting combos, I mean, this is definitely not always a 3-bet, like heads up with 10-10 or 8-8. I think 8-8 is probably a pure call. There are 6 full combos of sets that you beat set over set. And then there's a bunch of like 2 pair, depending on how wide he is. I mean, I guess I didn't let you actually answer that question about how wide you think he is. Like if he has like 10-8 off, if he has Queen 10 off, things like that you beat, and then you lose to Jack 9.
This is the first time I've ever played with this particular guy. He's played a few more times in the room since this hand, and he's the over defend on the shuttle, but I don't know that at this point in time yet.
All right, so 275. Okay.
5 of spades.
So the 5 of spades rolls off here on the turn. So it's queen of clubs, 10 of diamonds, 8 of spades. The turn's the 5 of spades, I would do a little suit check. Queen of spades, queen of diamonds for the hero, which means that this guy can't have queen X of spades. Queen of clubs, 10 of diamonds, 8 of spades. I suppose you could have like a straight draw with a flush draw, like a king jack of spades type of holding or something like that. So that doesn't really change a whole lot here. Just puts out backdoor spades. Okay.
Yep. And he bets 180.
He bets 180.
I remember thinking at the time he was very quick with that bet. Like almost like he had pre-decided the size. So it was, sometimes when the villains just move so quickly, you're like, how did you get here so fast?
Well, let me ask you this question. Let's say that it wasn't queen 10-8. Let's say it was like queen 10-3. Okay. So that you held the nuts, and you still hold the nuts. Turns a 5 of spades. Are you going to put some money in the pot here now? Or, I would assume you would want to.
So the answer there is I still haven't realized that we're as deep as we are yet. I still think I'm playing off a 1300 effective stack at this point in time. So when he bets 180, that's leaving us just on about 1.1 river SPR in my head, which is not correct, by the way.
Well, he's still going to have like almost like 1,000 left. If he started with like 13, you guys would have put in just over 300. He's still going to have 1,000 left, and the pot's going to be like 630. I kind of like to get some money into the pot. You know what I mean? Now you can play. Now, obviously that was not the flop. I don't know if you had any concern. Were you still thinking, I'm still not sure if I have the best hand here?
When he bets 180, I got the feeling, I thought if he had Jack 9, he'd just be greedier on the flop raise and the turn bet. Like the size, small, as I said, the check raise I felt was small on the flop, and I was like, what's this? Is this greed showing itself? I really want to call, or is this I don't know if I have the best hand raise? And then on the turn, I thought if he had Jack 9, I would have expected to see 225, 250 type on the turn rather than 180. So at that point in time, I'm removing most of the combos of Jack 9 from his range just off the bet size and the table feel and the bets, the pacing. So all those softer skills.
Well, I was going to say, if you are not concerned, we'll work into before you tell us what you're going to do, but if you're not concerned about Jack 9 and you're like, I think I've got the best hand here based upon his bet sizing and stuff, I think I would start building now. Now, I just want to zoom in here a little bit, though, and just do another sort of combo count. Let's give him all of the sets of 10s and sets of 8s that don't 3-bet off. And let's say he plays like all queen 10 off here. So you got 6 combos of sets that you beat. You've got another 3 queen 10, which is top 2 that you beat. That's 9 combos of hands. Let's say he plays 10-8 suited. That's 11 combos. And let's say he plays like queen 8 suited. That's 13 combos of hands that you beat. If he played all the Jack 9 hands, even Jack 9 off, that's 16. Meaning that if that was his range, 10s, 8s, 10-8 suited, and queen 8 suited, I don't think I'm missing anything here, but he played all the Jack 9s, he'd actually have more combos of hands that beat you than you beat. Now, with that being said, we're not putting in the draws at all or other types of holdings. If he does call with 10-8 off, that's going to be even more hands that you beat, and maybe he doesn't always call with Jack 9 off to your 35. I'm just saying it's probably closer than we think, a little bit closer than we think, and I could even see some people saying, well, I might just call here on the turn and see what happens on the river, and depend on whether the river's a brick or not, I might, if he put in a chunky, huge bet at the end and it was a brick, I might just call. If you have it in your head that you're using these quote unquote soft skills where you're just always, you want to play the biggest pot possible here with queen, then I would probably raise now. I think it's close though.
So I definitely at this point in time believe I have the best hand. for the reasons that I said before. I call, which I believe is a complete mistake, by the way, for two reasons. One is I didn't realize how deep we were at this point in time. And the second reason is I called at this point in time was because I thought because he'd done a really fast bet that I would get another bet out of him and be able to jam over the top.
See, that's interesting that you say that because you keep pointing to this whole bet pacing thing. And I think that's like one of the big things that I always talk about as a pretty, it's a live tell that you should pay attention to a lot. And it's one of the biggest ones that I use. Not necessarily like in this case, you're kind of using it in a different case, but I would make the case that the fast bet pacing of check raise and then sort of bet fast on turn actually would indicate that he's not going to necessarily automatically bet on the river, that he's just sort of betting quickly to protect, that you're not going to get this quick bet. Remember, quick bets are non-thinking bets. So I always talk about bet pacing when somebody like uses the same pacing on the river in position when they don't really have any respect for the fact that the nuts changed, and you can sort of deduce that they're bluffing in a certain type of situation. I want to address a couple things that people in the live chat are saying though too, which are good points. I don't think some people are like, well, you don't want to just like get into a way ahead, way behind situation. In this spot, like I would almost never be concerned about like 2-pair plus folding. I just don't buy it. Like if Adrian's going to raise here, it's not like you're scared that 10-8 is going to fold. Also, the reasons for raising here too is that somehow the times that he might have some sort of draw, you're getting the value now if he doesn't bluff at the end. So you're saying with the sort of a combination of possibly misreading his stack a little bit and maybe you interpreting that you're going to get a bet out of him anyways, you make the call, but you're very confident that you have the best hand, right? All right, so we're at 635, right? 275 plus 360, 635. It's queen of clubs, 10 of diamonds, 8 of spades, turns of 5 of spades. Okay.
Yep, and we get the old bricky, the 2 of diamonds.
Oh, well, that's a bricky in the world. There you go. So literally nothing changes from the flop to the river.
This is where the stack sizing problem comes apparent to me because he reaches around. So in a more thinking flow now, so he did a very fast bet on the turn. There's probably a 10, 12 second pause at this point in time. And then he reaches around and grabs an extra stack of greens. And this is where I became aware that he's got more chips than I thought he had. So I can see there's a 20 stack of greens, but then there was another one that was a couple of chips too short behind it that I didn't see. So there was another 300 in his stack. At this point in time, that's where I realized I've made a mistake in the fact that we've got a lot of money back. So he bets 350.
All right. So,
after about 15 seconds.
So the straddle bets 350 here, 350 into 635, and he's got probably what? He started the river with about 1,000. So
no, 1,200.
Oh, right. Because I'm sorry. So he started with about 1,200, right?
Yeah.
So this is interesting because I was going to say for all of you guys, this sizing is. Let me ask you this question: if he had bet like 500 or 600 here, would you have always just called, or were you just jamming no matter what?
Oh, I have not thought of that. Yeah, I was so confident on the turn that I was ahead. I probably still putting it in just because, like,
I think with this sizing, I think I would definitely jam, or I would. You say he's got 1,200. You say so he's got basically your jam would be for 1,200. So it would be like 2,200. Like 800 or 900 for him to call. I think with this sizing, I think I probably would do a fair amount of jamming. I think it gets a lot more interesting though if he goes like 500 to 600 because you get into situations there where now you get that reverse pot odd effect where like it's almost just like a min raise, right? Where you're going to raise him. It's almost like a min raise, but how many jack nines though are you losing to, right? So it is a situation now that has changed because now you're in a situation where you don't care about any type of misdraw that he has. Like if he's got king jack of spades, that doesn't come into the equation whether or not you jam or call here. Because remember, in order for you to jam, you have to get called by worse more than 50% of the time. So you're only concerned about what his value is here and if you're going to get called more than 50% of the time. Now, again, some guys who rightly somebody pointed out that they haven't played a whole lot of live poker might say, well, then you got to look at like if 10-8 folds out, that's part of his range that you can't count. If 10-8's going to fold here to a jam and he's only calling with like pocket 10s and pocket 8s and queen 10 and jack 9, do you get into a situation where that becomes more of a call? That's what you have to look at. I still think it's a jam based upon this sizing. I don't think it's a slam dunk as people are thinking though in the chat, and I think it's a lot closer if it goes like 500-600.
Yeah, I'm just replaying your question. I probably still jam at 500-600, but I'm wondering if that maybe overplay a little bit because of exactly as you just said there. Like, really, what's calling me is I would need him to have exactly hens and eights
Right.
without three being off free.
Right. Well, queen 10 is hard to fold too. You know, there's three
I
combos.
block so much queen 10.
Yeah, but I mean, there's still three combos, you know? Yeah, Jacob Goldman says there's no way queen 10 folds through jam. I think definitely queen 10, 10s, and 8s are all calls. I think you get into, you know, queen 8. I still don't see a whole lot of people fold though, you know, two pair on this type of like run out. But it sounds to me like you jam here.
Yeah, I jam.
Yeah, okay.
Paid the snap.
Well, that's great. So once you, here's the thing about this, right? Once you make that play and there's no snap, you're all good. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. You know, we're winning this hand. So he says he goes into the tank. He keeps saying Jack 9 a bunch, and then he goes, "But would you play aces like this, or have you got Queen 10?" At that point in time, I realize he's got a set as well, and I'm just the most relaxed ever. And after 15 or 20 seconds, he's just like, "You just can't have Jack 9 here," he says, and he puts in the call.
Right. And what does he have?
Tens.
10s.
10s.
10, 10. So, well, I mean, the only thing I would say about this is that you got lucky in the sense that you got a clean run out. Now, maybe, and lucky in the sense that, okay, maybe you get money in, but I'll go back to, I think it's a lot closer on the river than people think. You got lucky in the sense that you got a complete brick on the river. You definitely read the situation correctly in this particular case, not to be results oriented, but there's a fair amount of cards that are going to get reflected here, I think, as a check. Now, you having position, like if it's queen 10, 8, 5, right, moving to the river, and the river is like a jack or a 9, and he checks to you, I think you have, like, how can you not bet anyways? But you're not going to be able to bet as large, right? If it's queen 10, 8, 5, and any card that he checks to you, you're not going to be able to bet as large. That's why I like to get more money in the turn, leading to a bigger river bet. I think if you raise turn, he just gets it in anyways. I mean, he's got, in essence, well, he's the third nuts, but I mean, if you're not raising Jack 9 from up front, in essence, the second nuts. But Adrian, thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it.